the C-Suite Edge. I'm your host and I guess podcaster extraordinaire, if I can claim that title, John Light. I'm also the founder and CEO of Sabretooth Recruiting. And I'm fortunate today to have David Fischer with me. Now, David was previously, and I suppose you still are, in fact, though, the CRO, Chief Revenue Officer at Gregory and Appel, but now you've also taken on the mantle of president since last year.
I have, yes.
Well, I appreciate you joining us because you sit in this, what I think is a very interesting space when it comes to risk management and financial services and all the components that go with it. So I'm hoping to get started. Maybe you could set context by sharing a little bit about how you got there, what you guys are doing and building toward, and get us rolling with a 90-second introduction.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, John, for having me, first of all. Excited to talk to you and share any insight that I can. I've got a pretty diverse background. So I've got economics and marketing by education. I was doing the proverbial interviews and internships and wasn't finding anything too exciting. So decided to look at the militaries and decided that the Marine Corps was the most interesting and certainly the most challenging. So I went and did that for 8 years. So I was a Marine Corps officer. My non-combat billets were finance and logistics. Combat billets were infantry, parachute operations, and then a short stint in spec warfare. Got to that proverbially 8-year point and needed to either make a decision. This was going to be a 20-year career, or maybe it was time to get out. Talked to my wife about it. We ultimately decided that we had served well and faithfully, but it was time to pursue a civilian career. Then spent 12 years in predominantly the high-tech sector, all in sales and revenue operations, doing both domestic sales as well as international sales. And then had the opportunity to step into the private sector, and now I've been in the private sector for, probably 14, 15, 16 years. And generally, when I'm working with companies now in the private sector, they're going through some state of transition. So I've gone through a couple of different financial recoveries. I've taken a company out of bankruptcy, got them back into profitability. I've done several mergers and acquisitions and sales and getting companies ready to sell. And then the role I'm here with today has definitely been a transitional role as well, as we're moving from a fourth generation of leadership to now a fifth generation of leadership, and what that transition has looked like for us. So really, I'm going to classify it as a really fun and interesting and diverse career over, I guess it's probably been about 32 years now. So
transformation task in front of you with a company that's in its fifth generation of familial leadership, if I can put it that way. And that's been 100 and how many years?
We are now 141 years.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
You know, we consider most companies don't last 2.
Right.
And when you start talking about transformation and changing things, and I know when we talked earlier, you know, you're really pushing scale and driving revenue, driving service levels and growth and depth in the marketplace. That can't be easy, you know, because you come through these long stints of leadership that, while they're tied to the next generation of leadership and they're tied to the prior generations, everybody has their own idea of what things should look like and how it should function. So it's got to be a very challenging effort, hill to climb, if you will, Herculean even, to come in and make sure you're first aligned with that vision, but also make sure that you keep the tethers that are appropriate to the past without being locked in so much that you can't grow, if that makes sense.
Yes, that makes total sense. And again, you know, I spoke to now our CEO and our chairman for, probably 10, 11, 12 months before we both decided this was the right role for me, and I had the right skill sets and background experience, and I was the person that they were looking for. And then you topple on the dynamics that I was not only their first CRO, so they really didn't understand what a CRO is. And in the insurance world, CRO can also be misunderstood to be Chief Risk Officer, and I'm not a Chief Risk Officer, I'm the Chief Revenue Officer. So one, it was also helping people understand what is a Chief Revenue Officer, and then I was the first executive that they'd hired from outside the organization. So we did spend a lot of time really talking about what did we want to do, transitioning from a fourth generational leadership under 42 years worth of leadership that had been very successful, but now working in a very different industry in a very different time, and we're also a different organization. And what did that mean for our continuation and our longevity? Because our number one goal in a space where independent brokerage houses have continually been purchased by PE or continually consolidated by other organizations, we have been adamantly committed that we will remain independent. And what does that independence mean for us moving forward into now our 5th generation? And if I'm doing my job correctly, I'm going to position us for not only a 6th generation transition, but hopefully someday a 7th generation, because we've now got the sustainability through our growth initiatives to remain independent. And if we don't ever do that, then our option is we will have to sell, and that's not an option.
Hey, if you're going to define your strategy, man, get specific, right, about where you want to be. I think that's important. Let me ask you this. You talk about growth. What does Gregory and Appel do best? I mean, what's the biggest problem you all solve?
Yeah, I would say the biggest problem that we solve, and again, I say it lightly with my team here now, is in some ways we're selling a commodity, and there's not a lot of differentiating factors between us and our other brokerage houses we compete against, because we're all selling a lot of the same carriers, especially in the employee benefits world, and a lot of them, the solutions that are put in place are based on actuarial math. I mean, so there's not a lot of differentiating factors. But what we can do is, by the expertise that our producers, which we call our salespeople in the insurance world, what is it that we bring to our clients from an options perspective? So when we go to our clients and say, hey, John, right now you are running this kind of risk profile. You are running these kinds of losses. You are paying these kind of premiums. Here's what we can do if we help you better manage that risk and better manage your premiums and better manage the incidences and the claims that you are being positioned with, to not only help reduce your premiums, but put you in a position where we can give you options on what you can do. Options not only on your current carriers that you have, but also in the insurance world, there's options to get into what we call alternative risk, where we actually help you either be participative in a private insurance company, or you actually get to set up your own private insurance company, where now your premiums, if we're managing your risk well, come back to you as dividends. So that's a very different discussion, and it changes the discussion away from what are my benefits and what are my premium and how does that differentiate from every other broker I'm talking to. That's a non-interesting conversation, but we code you and say, hey, right now you're running really high risk and you're really running high loss ratios. I can't get you in front of the right carriers, but over a 3-year period, I can help you manage your risk. I can help you get your risk profile down, and now I can bring you options. That's when we are at our best, when we give our clients and our prospects options because we've helped them manage their risk.
If I said options and partnership, because that sounds like a lot of what it is, it's not something you do as a one-stop, let's do this once and forget about it sort of scenario.
We don't. We're in this for the long haul, like I said. We're on our 5th generation, 141-year-old business. Yes, we have monthly and quarterly numbers that we need to hit. Yes, we have our annual goals that we need to hit. We are much, much more interested in what is our continuation and our longevity and our sustainability as an organization, because we've been a mainstay in not only the industry that we work in, but in the geography which we represent. We want to continue to be here as well. So we have some of our sales cycles and some of our producers, I mean, gosh, honest truth, they have been working and finding the right opportunities at the right time with some of our now clients 10, 11, 12 years before they finally decided this was the right transition over. So yes, we have our monthly, quarterly, annual numbers we need to hit, but we're much more interested in the longevity and the sustainability to not only us, but how do we help that for our clients as well.
Yeah, wow. Okay, one term you used a minute or two ago, non-interesting conversation. Number one, I've never heard it used quite in that way.
Yep.
I've heard people say, that doesn't interest me. But I like the way you phrased it. That's a non-interesting conversation. So much of what's offered out there. Where did I take? Okay, so I had my boys with me, my 2 youngest boys, the other day. And we don't eat out very often, but I'm taking them out. They're like, no, we don't want this. No, we don't want that. Mom's homesick. We just want to get out of the house. And I'm like driving along, and I just start randomly naming places. I said, look over there's a Popeye's chicken. They're like, yeah, let's go there. And I'm like, okay, I haven't been in one in ages. Why not? I got these kids out. So we go in. They have the counter. We'd go up and order, but they don't take orders there anymore. Now it's a kiosk where you have a touch screen and you enter in your orders individually. You pay there. You don't actually talk to a human being, which I find non-interesting personally. But what struck me and stuck with me is this idea that we can take life and what we want to purchase as a consumer or a purveyor of a certain product or service and reduce it to a touch screen and think that we're going to get everybody what's their best option on the table. And I kind of rebel against that because I think that with technology advancing and with accessibility advancing, our touch as human beings one to another in partnership and cohesion actually takes on a whole greater level of value than maybe it's had in the past because we took it for granted. It used to be, I don't know about you, but when I grew up, if you walked into a department store, and you never hear that term anymore, but you walk into some retail outlet or whatever, people greeted you.
Right.
And sometimes in smaller towns, they knew who you were. They knew what you were after.
Right.
You don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
And it sounds to me like part of what you're offering, and to be able to put yourself in a position to share options, you have to have that partnership, that interaction, that, hey, let me know, like, and trust you so that what you have to offer makes sense. I think there's tremendous value in that, frankly, but it is not easy to achieve given where we are as a marketplace today.
Yeah, I would agree. So one, as you take a look at, insurance as a necessity for businesses, besides their payroll, their employee benefits, and then their commercial line insurance, it's typically the second and third largest expense lines on their income sheet. So again, it's a really important decision for these business leaders as we're helping them guide through those right decisions. And then I'm always reminding my team, and they've heard me say it, hundreds if not thousands of times, once our prospects become our clients, when they're calling us, except when it's time for renewals or they've got questions about a policy or something, they're probably having a bad day. They probably have had they've had a fire in their buildings or their warehouse. They've had a slip, fall, or bump, and now they've got an injured colleague or an injured client that they've got to get into. Or they've called because one of their employees just got diagnosed with cancer, something horrific that now they're looking for us to help. So I always remind our people that, one, insurance is an exceptionally fascinating business. It's not what people think about, when you watch, Groundhog Day and Ned Nedler, that life insurance guy that's nagging at you. That's not what we do. And again, that's important, but that's not what we do. But when our clients call us, they're probably having a really bad day, and we have the responsibility and we have the obligation and the accountability to help them make it better and get them back to where they were before. And that's an awesome responsibility. And again, it goes back to, it's not about the premiums and benefits. That's, like I said before, that's uninteresting. It's not interesting. But when I can come in and I can help a client or help a prospect and say, hey, let's really help you manage your risk. Let's really make sure that this is a meaningful part of your business. And when you have a problem, not if, but when you have a problem, we're going to work with you to make it better. That's an incredible responsibility.
Yeah.
So it is fascinating, and it's also really rewarding work.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I had a guest on some time ago who made a comment. Man, I'm going to end up paraphrasing it. I won't quote it correctly, but to the effect of, many businesses screw up because they spend all this time worried about the business and delivering what the business needs rather than what the customer needs.
Right.
And sometimes what the customer needs is confidence, reassurance. My world's just exploded. I need to be able to have some stability in it so I can make decisions and function and drive things forward. So I think, frankly, that's a noble effort, yet a heavy lift, because it's not easy.
It is not.
But
it's also really exceptionally rewarding. I mean, when you have somebody that has given you the responsibility to help protect them and their colleagues and their clients that they're managing, and then again, and when they're in need, you're there for them, whether it be professionally or personally. Yeah, it's an incredible responsibility, and it's really rewarding that those people and our clients are putting that trust in us, because they have other options, but they're putting that trust in us.
Yeah, and I like the underused term nowadays, but the level of, in a sense, I suppose, nobility you put into the idea that, look, we want to make it right for you. Because that's difficult. Like I said, that's a heavy lift. Not everyone does that. A lot of folks now, a lot of companies, customer service, putting the customer first, addressing their problems, helping them. well, maybe we didn't have the right solution in place, but hey, let's find a way to help you as best we can. That's not the norm that you see in the marketplace, man. I admire that tremendously, what you're doing there, David. And let me ask you this. If someone else who, like me, admires and appreciates that level of engagement and service and partnership, what's the best way for them to find you and have a conversation?
Well, the best way to find, our producers here is to go to GregoryandAppel.com. And we've got our webpage broken down in the 3 verticals in which we work. So our private client, for those that have personal needs, our employee benefits, for those that are looking to help protect their employees, and then finally our commercial side of the business. And then we can help guide them to where they can get the information they need and line them up with one of our brokers that would certainly be very happy to walk them through our process and our methodology that we take very seriously to help protect them.
Awesome. David, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, John. I really appreciate it.